Yes, to ask the Deputy First Minister what issues will be discussed at the next meeting of the Cabinet.
Deputy First Minister.
Issues of importance to the people of Scotland.
Can I thank the Deputy First Minister for her expressions of sympathy towards the Portsmouth workers, as well as those in Glasgow who are losing their jobs and in Portsmouth losing their yard. I think everyone here is arguing with sincerity about the future of Scottish shipbuilding. The big problem for the Deputy First Minister is that what she has said today to Joanne Lamont is not what she has said in the past about procuring ships. Look at what she said about fisheries protection vessels before she was a minister. She said, and I quote, "It should be reclassified as a grey ship in order that the work can simply be given to a Scottish yard. The Sturgeon shipbuilding doctrine, powerfully put, warships should be built inside the national boundary." So she wanted the then Scottish Government to pretend our fishing patrol ships were warships so they could be built here. But now she wants the UK Government to do the opposite. Does she see no inconsistency between what she said then and what she's saying now?
Deputy First Minister.
I don't know how closely Willie Rennie has really looked at this issue. I'm not arguing that the Type 26 shouldn't have what is called in the technical language the Article 346 exemption. I'm simply saying there is absolutely nothing in the context of an Article 346 exemption that would stop these frigates being built in a Scottish yard. And the reality is, and the reality that nobody can get away from here, and I actually thought and think that we should use this as a big advantage for the Clyde, not as something to argue about, is that the Clyde is now not only the best place to build these frigates, it is the only place to build these frigates. Now, that's not something I particularly relish. As I said earlier on, I'm deeply sorry for Portsmouth as a result of the announcement yesterday, but it makes the Clyde the only place to build these kind of ships. That is the reality. Let me quote somebody in the Times this morning, Alec Ashbourne-Walmsley, a London-based defence consultant. "Portsmouth on its own simply doesn't have the capacity to build a new class of large, complex warships." So if Portsmouth doesn't have it, the only place in the UK that does have it is the Clyde, and that's something we should say is good for the Clyde.
Willie Rennie.
I know a little bit about defence. I sat on the Defence Committee for a number of years and also represented Rosyth, so I know one or two things about Rosyth. Can I say that when she talks about it being placed in another country, that would open it to competition, which is the whole point about Korea and the Korea yards. That was open competition that the British yards didn't even compete for. And the frigates are complex warships. The fleet tankers are not, and she should know that, and if she doesn't understand it, she needs to go back and get a little bit more advice. Her own doctrine says warships should be built inside the state boundary, and Article 346, as she says, it makes clear that that can happen. Can I remind her what she said back on the fishing patrol vessels? She said that the patrol ships should be reclassified so that work can simply be put to a Scottish yard. But she expects the UK Government to ignore that doctrine. Do as I say, not as I do. The problem is, this is her gamble. This is the gamble, that the rest of the UK will do the opposite of what she would do herself. I want the relationship between the Royal Navy and the Clyde to continue to deliver jobs and opportunities. Doesn't her gamble put that at risk?
Deputy First Minister.
Willie Rennie fails, as both Joanne Lamont and Ruth Davidson has failed, to say where else other than the Clyde these ships would be built, but we'll leave that to one side at the moment. He's just plain wrong on Article 346. Let me quote it to him, and it's subsection 1b. Any member state may take such measures as it considers necessary. I'm not arguing that that article shouldn't apply. What I'm saying is that if the UK Government considers it necessary to award a contract to BAE, and then for reasons of value for money, and because it's the only place to build them, BAE says they should be built on the Clyde, there's nothing in Article 346 that stops that happening. That's the reality. Look, I say to Willie Rennie, and what I'm about to say here, I say more in sorrow than in anger, because I wish Alistair Carmichael the best in his new post. I had a great relationship with his predecessor, but I thought his behaviour yesterday was shameful. He's the Secretary of State for Scotland. His job is to stand up for Scottish interests. He's quoted in the Portsmouth Press this morning talking about taking jobs away from Scotland. That's disgraceful. I hope he would amend his approach to the job quickly, and I hope Willie Rennie would never follow it.